So the Browns officially have a brand new starting quarterback. But that's just the tip of the iceberg in this wild saga. As the veteran got benched, the next man up walked into the spotlight and then stunned everybody by acting like a literal mime during a locker room interview. Reporters stood there in disbelief, and fans online instantly split down the middle, some laughing, others furious. Today we're breaking it all down. The Browns' QB shuffle, multiple brutal injuries around the league, Tyreek Hill's surprising recovery update, and more you can't miss. First up, the Browns didn't waste time shaking things up. Russell Wilson was already the first big-name quarterback to get benched with the Giants, and now it's Joe Flacco's turn in Cleveland. After 4 painful weeks, the Browns announced rookie Dillon Gabriel as QB1. And here's the kicker. He's about to make NFL history by becoming the first quarterback to ever debut in an international series game. That's right, his first snap will be in London against the Vikings. But this isn't a fairy tale debut. He's getting tossed straight into the fire against Brian Flores and that vicious Minnesota defense. Flores has a perfect 4-0 record when facing rookie quarterbacks since becoming the Vikings' DC, and he isn't about to hand Gabriel any easy looks. Talk about trial by fire. Still, Cleveland had no choice but to pull the trigger. Flacco was ice cold, throwing just 2 touchdowns to go along with 6 interceptions, second worst in the entire league, only behind Geno Smith. His passer rating, dead last among starters. And the Browns' offense? They rank second to last in points per game and sit at 32nd, yes, dead last, in points per play. That's flat out embarrassing for a team with this much talent. The fans demanded a shakeup, and now Gabriel's number is called, ready or not. They're sitting at 1-3, but let's be real. If it wasn't for a blocked field goal, the Browns would be sitting at an ugly 0-4. That's a nightmare start for a franchise that swore it had turned the corner. And sure, you can't dump every bit of blame on Joe Flacco. He's been around forever, steady enough, but at the end of the day, he's 40 years old. The decline was always coming, and truthfully, you could argue it's been happening for years. So now the torch passes to Dillon Gabriel, their 3rd rounder out of Oregon. And here's the wild part. This kid already has half as many touchdowns as Flacco this season, while throwing 156 fewer passes. That's insane. Sure, it came in garbage time against the Ravens when the Browns were getting smoked, but still, it's a stat that makes people laugh and shake their heads at the same time. And here's a number that'll blow your mind. Gabriel is going to be the 41st starting quarterback for the Browns since 1999. Yes, 41. On top of that, he's the 11th different starter since Baker Mayfield left just 3 years ago in 2021. Talk about a cursed position. Nobody knows if Gabriel is going to be some miracle savior. And let's be honest, the odds aren't exactly stacked in his favor. But he's young, he'll get better with time, and at this point, the Browns have no choice but to see what he's got. Meanwhile, Flacco slides back to the bench, and Shedeur Sanders stays parked as QB3. But here's where things get straight up bizarre. When reporters asked Shedeur about the change, he didn't actually answer. Instead, he mimed his responses, acting like he was talking, but never saying a word. Cameras caught him moving his hands and lips, like a silent act in the middle of the locker room, and the whole thing left everyone stunned. Well, okay then. If that's how Shedeur wants to play it, or not play it. Honestly, it's not the end of the world, but let's be real. It's definitely odd. As soon as those locker room mime clips hit the internet, social media split right down the middle. Some fans thought it was hilarious, some thought it was pathetic, and others had no idea what to make of it. You had people like Josh Anderson actually hyping him up, saying, "Good for him." Meanwhile, plenty of others shrugged it off as Shedeur just being funny. And then there's the twist. Rex Ryan recently blasted Shedeur for talking too much, so some people think this was his way of trolling Ryan to the max, as in literally proving the point by saying absolutely nothing at all. But not everyone bought the act. Spencer German, who covers the Browns, pointed out something very real. Shedeur could have just flat out declined to talk to the media. That's an option for every player. Instead, he stood there putting on a silent show, which looked more like theater than professionalism. I mean, yeah, technically, he did choose not to talk, but he did it in the weirdest way possible. And here's the thing. Anything Shedeur does is going to get magnified. Whether he says a lot or a little, it turns into headlines and debates. That's the price of being in his position. Still, this little stunt caused way more noise than if he had just respectfully answered questions, or simply said, "No comment." At the end of the day, I just found the whole scene bizarre, unnecessary, and distracting. It's not helping his case as QB3 when he should be grinding to climb the depth chart instead of going viral for acting like a silent movie star. The Browns' rookie class has been impressive overall. Guys like Mason Graham, Carson Schweisinger, Quinshon Judkins, Dylan Sampson, Harold Fannin, and even Isaiah Bond as an undrafted signing have all turned heads. But moments like this? They put the spotlight back on Shedeur in the strangest way possible. All those rookies have been showing out for Cleveland, and now Dylan Gabriel gets his chance to add his name to the list of real contributors. But while the Browns are making headlines for a quarterback switch, across the league injuries are starting to stack up, and one team's backfield has turned into a straight-up disaster. The Arizona Cardinals are getting wrecked at running back. James Conner is already gone for the year after a nasty foot injury, and just when Trey Benson stepped in to take over, boom, he goes down too. He hurt his knee in their Week 4 loss to the Seahawks, and today we learned he's having arthroscopic surgery on his meniscus. He's now on short-term IR, which means he's gone at least 4 weeks, probably closer to 6. Brutal timing for Arizona. So who's left? Right now, their running back room is Amari DiMercado, Michael Carter, and Bam Knight. The problem? Those 3 have combined for just 5 carries this entire season. 5! That's not a rotation, that's a nightmare. No surprise if the Cardinals start shopping for help. Maybe a trade, maybe a free agent pickup. But this deep into the season, the pickings are slim. They might have to wait until closer to the trade deadline when struggling teams start unloading their veterans. Either way, it's a brutal spot for a team already scrambling on offense. They're sitting 22nd in scoring and a miserable 28th in total yards. Sure, they still have playmakers like Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride to lean on, but let's be honest, this rushing attack looks cooked. 3 backups behind an offensive line ranked 29th in run blocking by PFF. That's a recipe for disaster, and defenses are already licking their chops. The NFC West is no joke this year, and the Cardinals are already drowning, sitting at 0-2 in division, play with no momentum in sight. But they're not the only ones limping into October. Over in the NFC South, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just took a big hit of their own in the backfield. Bucky Irving, one of their most exciting playmakers, went down on Sunday with an ankle foot injury that had fans holding their breath. And today, we got the full update. Turns out, it's a foot sprain. The sight was rough. He showed up to practice on crutches and wearing a walking boot. That's the kind of scene that makes a fan's stomach drop. Now, according to Adam Schefter, the good news is the team doesn't believe this is a season-ending type of injury. He hasn't been placed on IR, and they're calling it week to week for now. But let's be real. He's already ruled out for this week against Seattle, and it wouldn't shock anyone if he misses more than just 1 game. Losing Bucky, who's been a centerpiece of their offense, is no small blow. The Bucs will now lean on Rachaad White, who's proven before he can handle lead-back duties. Behind him, Sean Tucker is waiting for his shot. And don't forget, this guy once racked up over 190 scrimmage yards and 2 touchdowns in a single game filling in for White last season. So compared to the Cardinals' disaster, Tampa's in a little better shape, but it still hurts badly. Especially in a tight playoff race where every game matters, the Bucs can't afford to lose their spark plug for long. The Bucs' offensive line has been shredded this season. Both their guard and right tackle are on IR, and rookie Cody Mauch is done for the year. That's brutal for protection and the run game. The good news, Tristan Wirfs and Chris Godwin are finally back. Luke Goedeke should return later this year, and Mike Evans isn't expected to miss too much time with, you guessed it, another hamstring injury. And let's be real, that's almost an annual tradition at this point. Evans has dealt with some kind of hamstring issue 5, 6, 7 years in a row. But here's where things got downright scary. Earlier today, running backs coach Skip Peete suddenly collapsed on the field during practice. Total chaos. Paramedics rushed in and carried him off to the hospital. Thankfully, he was responsive and coherent, and Todd Bowles later told reporters that Peete is doing fine. The early word is dehydration, but still, that's a terrifying sight for anyone at practice. Doesn't matter if it's a coach, a player, or even a fan. You never want to see someone go down like that. And as if the theme of the day wasn't already stacked with backfield injuries, it gets worse. Over in New York, Jets running back Braylon Allen went down on Monday Night Football with a knee injury that looked ugly from the start. There's still no official timeline, but defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn gave a chilling update to the media, calling it pretty serious. Allen's now getting a second opinion, and the whole Jets locker room is holding its breath. Losing him would be a crushing blow to a team already fighting for its footing this season. It's looking like this could be a season-ending injury for Braylon Allen, and that's just heartbreaking for a 21-year-old trying to build his career. Hopefully not, but either way, it's a brutal break. Everyone's rooting for him to bounce back strong, but the reality is this could change everything for him moving forward. But the biggest headline from that game wasn't Allen. It was Tyreek Hill. The superstar wideout suffered one of the most gruesome injuries you'll ever see on a football field. A full-on knee dislocation with multiple torn ligaments, including the ACL. Injuries like that usually mean multiple surgeries and a long, painful road back. Yet somehow, his agent Drew Rosenhaus painted a surprisingly optimistic picture. He revealed Tyreek's initial surgery went well, and shockingly, that a second procedure won't be needed. That's a rare break of good news in a nightmare situation. Then Rosenhaus went even further, saying Tyreek's goal is to play at the very start of next season. Hold on a second. That's just days after the man crumbled on the turf in one of the ugliest scenes we've seen in years. He's 32 in March, and the type of injury he suffered has ended plenty of careers before. Yes, everyone hopes he makes it back by September. But let's be honest, given how extreme this injury is, it's possible he doesn't see the field until much later. Maybe even 2026 if things don't go perfectly. Meanwhile, the Dolphins quietly made another move today. This one not related to Tyreek. They cut ties with cornerback Cam Smith, their second-round pick back in 2023. Head coach Mike McDaniel explained it as a best-for-both-sides situation, with Smith likely to get a shot somewhere else. But the reality? He never started a single game for Miami in 3 years, spent most of this season on the NFI list, and now walks away as a wasted draft pick. For a team already rocked by Tyreek's devastating injury, losing depth like this just piles on the drama. Life just got even tougher for the Raiders. They're losing their Iron Man left tackle Colton Miller for at least 4 games after being placed on IR with a high ankle sprain and a hairline fracture. This is massive. Not only is it the longest absence of his entire 8-year career, but Miller's the longest tenured Raider on the roster. He's played in 111 of 113 games, a rock for that line, and now he's sidelined when they need him most. The timing couldn't be worse. That offensive line had finally started clicking, giving up just 3 pressures in their last game after surrendering a ridiculous 51 across the first 3 weeks. And running back Ashton Jeanty went nuclear. 138 yards, leading the way for a team total of 240 rushing yards. It was his first time even breaking 70 in a game, and the line deserved a ton of credit. But just as things looked like they were turning, the Raiders lost the game in heartbreaking fashion on a blocked game-winning field goal. 3 straight losses later, they're sitting at 1-3 and staring down a brutal road matchup against the Colts. And the Colts? They're a team that should honestly be 4-0 if not for Adonai Mitchell costing them 2 touchdowns against the Rams. That's not an easy trip for Vegas. And if the Raiders drop to 1-4, the heat is going to be scorching on their new head coach and quarterback Geno Smith, who, by the way, is leading the entire league in interceptions right now. Disaster vibes all over Vegas. But here's where the deja vu kicks in. The Rams are another team that could easily be undefeated if not for their own special teams meltdowns, including 2 blocked field goals against the Eagles. Now sitting at 3-1, they've got a primetime showdown this Thursday against the San Francisco 49ers. Vegas has them as 7.5-point home favorites, and the news just got sweeter. The Niners have ruled out quarterback Brock Purdy with turf toe along with key wideouts. The door is wide open for the Rams to jump to 4-1 and remind the league they're no fluke. The 49ers are in real trouble heading into Thursday night. Losing Brock Purdy alone is a crushing blow, but now they're also without 2 of their top wide receivers. Suddenly, that explosive San Fran offense looks like a shell of itself. The timing couldn't be worse either, because the Rams have momentum, they're at home, and the betting line is already swinging heavy in their favor. Think about it. San Francisco went from being a powerhouse to limping into primetime, missing their starting quarterback and their best pass catchers. That's a nightmare scenario for Kyle Shanahan, who's now forced to roll with backups against a Rams defense that's been heating up every single week. And while the Niners are patching holes, Los Angeles is smelling blood in the water. If the Rams take care of business here, they'll be sitting at 4-1 and sitting pretty near the top of the NFC standings. For a team that everyone thought was going to fall off this year, suddenly they're looking like one of the league's biggest surprises. Meanwhile, San Fran risks spiraling if they can't survive these injuries, because in a loaded NFC, even a short slump can bury you fast. Ricky Pearsall is dealing with a knee injury, Jawan Jennings is banged up with ankle and rib issues, and now Mac Jones is getting the start again. But look who he's working with. George Kittle is out on IR, Brandon Ayuk is still battling his way back from that major knee injury, and suddenly the offense looks stripped bare. Jones is going to be throwing passes to DeMarcus Robinson, Kendrick Bourne, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Sky Moore, and Russell Gage. That's not exactly the star power this team is used to trotting out on Sundays. And while Christian McCaffrey is still their do-it-all weapon, there's only so much one guy can carry when the injuries are piling up everywhere. The worst news of all? Their defensive heart and soul, Nick Bosa, is out for the season with a torn ACL. That's catastrophic. A team that had championship dreams is now hanging on by a thread, and the question is whether they can even keep their head above water with this many stars missing. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for today. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Are the Niners cooked, or can they survive this storm? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. And I'll see you on the next one.